Garw cyntig.
Ta garw gan dewt. Well,
Okay,
might have on the channel too, got him with your cocky.
So listen, lads, I'm going to put everyone on mute, right? In a few minutes, and then what I was just going to say is that you'll be able to unmute yourself. So when Maral has finished her story, please unmute yourselves and go, woo! Because I won't be able to unmute you, okay?
Okie dokie.
You'll have to do that yourselves. And it would be really nice so that Maral doesn't feel like she's in an empty cave.
Yeah, well, we might have to do that.
And then Monique will tell you her story from France, and I will tell you the last one. But I'm going to go now, try and do this go live bit. And it would be really nice as well at the beginning if everyone could just wave from whatever country you're from. I'm going to do the go live.
Just give us the thumbs up to wave.
I will.
From Sweden.
Slow here. Live on Facebook.
It's showing that it's live, Alana.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's showing on my screen that it's live.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go live. This is very exciting. Okay. 1 second. So welcome everyone. It's really lovely to see you all. This is the last meeting of 404 tellings of the project of Carrying the Songs. I'm incredibly excited about this as the project has been going on now for 7 months, 7 full months since we started the first story on Inishmore on the 31st of March. Huge thanks to every one of you for being part of it. Basically, we've done it. That's the story now, which is amazing. So I'm just thrilled. I can't believe that we managed to get this story broken telephone style. In English we call it Chinese whispers, but in most other countries it's called broken telephone. And it's just like a testament to people's generosity, really, of spirit, that the project went so wide and spread so far. It's just been amazing. So huge thanks to every one of you for taking part and taking this story a step closer to Istanbul, where it arrived on Wednesday. And so shortly we're going to hear the last story from Maral Perk. And after that, I thought it would just be really nice to hear. I know everyone's been saying they were dying to hear the last story. Everyone's dying to hear the first story. And I thought it would be nice to hear one in the middle. So Monique Boer, who was hugely, hugely helpful in bringing people on board, is going to do us the honors and tell her story in English. And just to give you a flavor, because you wouldn't believe how much the story changed. I just thought it might be a nice way to start by reading the poem that inspired the title. This project, it kind of took legs. Evert Ekros is here in the meeting, and in Sweden. And the origin of this project was a project that Evert and I did 4 years ago in Sweden, when we, Evert is a musician who's really interested in the kind of the emotional intention behind the voice, and we kind of came upon this amazing idea to do a game of Chinese whispers in Stockholm and pass some stories from person to person, and to see how they would change. It was incredible how the stories changed between 15 people. And from there, the idea took legs, and I was invited to bounce some ideas around here, and I came up with this idea to bring the story from Inishmore to Istanbul, a story. So the story, I planned the project 4 years ago, then I had to drop it. And when the coronavirus lockdown started, I just decided, I'm going to do this anyway. This project is too beautiful. And then, you know, fired by the enthusiasm of all you lovely people and 300 more like you, it's been amazing. But the Carrying the Song's title comes from a poem by Moya Cannon, and she has a little line above the poem where she writes, "Those in power write the history, those who suffer write the songs." So if I'll now I'll read you the story now. It was always those with little else to carry who carried the songs to Babylon, to the Mississippi. Some of these last possessed little less than nothing, did not own their own bodies. Yet, 3 centuries later, deep rhythms from Africa stowed in their hearts, their bones, carry the world's songs. For those who left my county, girls from Downings and the Rosses, who followed herring boats north to Shetland, gutting the sea's silver as they went, or boys from Ranafast who took the Derry boat, who slept over a rope in a bothy. Songs were their soul's currency, the pure metal of their hearts, to be exchanged for other gold, other songs which rang out true and bright when flung down upon the deal boards of their days. Gorgeous. Moya is from Donegal, and that poem, you know, just talking so much about migrants moving from place to place, was the poem that inspired the title. So we are here now today. We've 29 countries represented, 50 languages. Does everyone from Ireland want to wave? Everyone from England and Scotland and Wales? I have to flick over from screen to screen. And what about France and Spain? Switzerland, Germany, the Netherlands. Woo, Saskia! Sweden, Denmark. I don't think there's anyone from Finland today. Hi, Ringvor is from way, way up in the north. And Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Where was it next? Poland. Czech, hi Jakob. Czech, Slovakia. And then it went to Hungary, Slovenia. Hi Chenge. Slovenia, Austria. And then to Italy. Then to Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, Bulgaria, Greece, and Turkey. Menelaus, you've grown your hair drastically since I saw you a few days ago. I'm not going to go on talking loads, but this project relied on the generosity of a lot of people, and I just want to, their generosity of spirit. There were some people, most of you roped in friends, most of you brought in people, but there were some people who brought in an awful lot, and I know they went to a lot of effort to do that. And I just want to read out and really my heartfelt thanks to the following people: to Dermot de Fuicha, Orla McGovern, Nuala Hayes, Darren O'Regan in Mayo, Donal O'Knavsey in Donegal, Liz Weir in the north of Ireland, Ian McGallagher in Scotland, Paul Jackson in England, Monique Boer in France, who insisted we get 6 languages in France. Saskia Bangma, I'm sorry now if I'm saying your names with the wrong inflections or completely wrongly. Peter Barna Rasmussen in Denmark, Evert Ekros, who was one of the originators of the project in the first day, in Sweden, Linnea Huta in the north of where Sweden and Finland met, who has a passion for minority languages, and that was just a very moving meeting where we brought those minority languages within the Arctic Circle together. Dennis Kronholm, who has almost an I can't be measuring up people's passions here, but in the same area, greatly passionate about sign language and minority languages. Piret Par in Estonia. Yuva Sulov, also in Estonia, another massive passion for minority languages. We had 6 languages in Estonia, and there's a population of 1.3 million. Lucia in Lithuania, Agnieszka in Poland, Lenka in Czech, Tanya in Austria, Sonia in Serbia, Gina Kavajian in Bulgaria, and Turna Sumaya Anil in Turkey. I thought we were going to just put a toe into Turkey, but we didn't. We did a grand tour of Turkey. We went way over to the east and up to the north before finally arriving in Istanbul. So huge thanks to you guys, because you really, this is what it's about, you know, the really beautiful cross connections. And it's really meaningful today. It needs to be said, today is a very historical day in Ireland. It's the centenary, that's the 100th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, which is a very bloody day in Ireland's history and Britain's history. And the fact that today we're reaching across borders to each other on today of all days is just very moving, really. I'm not going to do any more talking. I'm going to let Maral speak. Where are you, Maral?
Hello.
Are you there? Great! Woo! Now, no pressure. Everyone here has everyone here has carried this story closer to you, and so no pressure. We're all dying to hear it.
Everybody, now can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay,
yep.
Great. I'm not using a microphone or anything, so. All right, just an advance warning, we might have a guest speaker in our story. My dog's been running around. I'll try to quiet him down, or he might decide to come in at the right minute and add some sound effects. We'll see how it goes. All right.
Woohoo!
Let's start. Now, in Turkey, in my storytelling school and among storytelling circles, we light a candle before we tell our story with a wish. I kind of did it in advance, and I hope this will be a good experience for all of us. So I've got my candle here. Here we go. Once there was, and there wasn't. a great while ago, back when fleas were barbers and camels were the town criers, the world was full of tricksters and liars. But we don't need to worry about that today, because what I'm going to tell you now is the absolute, irrefutable truth. I heard it from a man who heard it from a friend who was told by someone who was supposed to be there but wasn't. So, once upon a time, there was a small village far, far away. Where was it? Well, maybe up north, down south, far east, or even further west. The thing is, back then, the world was filled with villages. More villages than drops in the ocean. And this one was like any other one. The people that lived in the village were kind people, were gentle people. They worked, they took care of their families, they were polite with their neighbors. They got along well. One pleasant day, one ordinary day after another would follow. The sun would rise and the sun would set, and days would go on. On one such day, a little girl from the town, from the village, went down to the seashore to take a walk. You see, she loved the feeling of sand in her toes. It tickled her. So she kept dragging her feet deeper and deeper on the beach, just until she felt a sharp pain in her foot. She looked down. It was a conch, a rather sizable conch. It was unlike anything she had found on the shore before. So she looked at it closely. She squeezed it. She smelt it. Ooh, salty. She even tasted it. And finally, she decided to hold it against her ear to see if it would make a sound. And it did. And she listened, and she listened, and listened carefully. And she heard it. She was so excited, she ran back to the village. She ran and she ran and she ran. Her heart was pounding. She grabbed the first person that she could see and said, "Here, listen to this. You gotta listen to this." And the man listened, and his eyes opened wide. The girl saw another person, grabbed her, and said, "Listen, you gotta hear this. You gotta hear it." And another, "Listen, listen, listen, listen." Soon, everyone in the village had listened to the conch. And those that listened felt restlessness growing in their heart. They took their gaze away from their lives and towards the sea. They felt an unbearable, inexplicable longing for something that they didn't know. What could they do? There was only one thing they could do. They took down their doors. They tore apart their roofs. They even cut all the trees in their orchards, and they put them together somehow to make a boat, or rather a very large, definitely untested raft. They even sewed together their curtains, their old clothes, their bed sheets, and when it was all finished, it was time to sail. One by one, every single person in that village climbed on this vessel and set out to sea. They sailed and they sailed and they sailed for 3 nights and 3 days. And as they did, they passed around the girl's conch and listened to the whispers coming from inside it. But soon, the blue skies turned gray. Great clouds started gathering over their heads. The wind began to make sounds like they hadn't heard before. It was howling all around them. The waves started to rise and swell and crash against the boat, and they found themselves in the middle of the most violent storm. They were flailing up, down, side to side, around and around. They screamed for dear life, "Oh Lord, help us!" But no one would hear them. They were so far away from the land. Soon, the wind settled, the waves calmed down, even the sky parted so that the heavenly rays of sunlight could once more come on the land. All storms must die, and so did this one. When the villagers gathered themselves, they saw that they were on familiar shore. They were so close, so close. They jumped in the shallow waters, and with the last ounce of the strength they had left, they ran towards the land. They just wanted to be safe again. They went to the village, their beloved village, who had given them so much. But when they came, nothing was the same. What it was gone. What it had been was nevermore. The villagers were shocked. One of them cried out in anger, "It's the conch! It's the conch's fault! It's cursed! Let's throw it in the sea!" So they all turned towards the girl who was still holding the conch. She picked it up with all her strength and threw it back to the waves. The conch fell inside in the sea with a giant splash. And as it did, something came out swirling and growing and growing and growing out of its curvy chambers. Its head grazed the clouds above. A magical voice boomed over the sea. "I am the witch of the 7 seas, and you have heard my call." People were frozen, all except for the little girl. She looked up at the creature towering above her and said, "Who are you?" The creature came down to her eye level and said, "I am your mother." "No, you're not. My mother's right here," she said, and she pointed to the woman standing behind her. She had the same bright eyes as the little girl. The witch of the 7 seas began to plead with the girl. She said, But I have called you home. I've cradled you in my arms. I've sung you lullabies." The villagers were shocked, were outraged. They began yelling, "No, no, what you call cradling, what you call lullabies were storms that almost took our lives and that took away the only home we've ever known." The witch of the 7 seas seemed saddened at this, but at the same time, she was also very lonely. She turned towards the girl once again and said, "If you stay with me 6 moons out of the year, I promise you I can give you back everything you've lost. You can recover it all." The little girl said nothing, looked into the witch's eyes. The grown-ups, all the villagers, held their breath. What do you think she said? Did she accept the witch's offer? Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. We'll have to ask the man who heard it from a friend, who was told by someone who was supposed to be there but wasn't. But that's not really important. But what I will tell you next is the truth. The whispers of the witch of the 7 seas still linger in the curvy chambers of the conch. So hold one against your ear, and you can decide if you will heed her call.
Bravo. Brilliant.
Well done.
Well done.
Does it bear any relation to anything anyone told?
No.
Oh, yes, it does. Yes.
Like
A little.
There were some
A little.
elements, weren't
A
there?
little, yeah.
Yeah. there were elements.
Alana, there was 2 words I recognised:
Yes.
seashore and storm.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the storm and the boat were pretty consistent, I have to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Not that, as I said to you all, pretty much, that most of the last 34 weeks I've spent my time watching people laughing at each other in a language I didn't understand. So I really didn't know what people were talking about. But Maral, thank you very much. That was beautiful.
Very lyrical. Yeah.
Lovely story.
Yeah, beautiful. I just realized I thought I was live streaming on Facebook, and I had, because I'd been doing a test that was private, it wasn't live streaming. I mean, it was live streaming, but it was live streaming just to me. So anyway, now we are here. This is what happens. You're learning as you go, which this project has been all about for me. So anyway, thanks a million, Maral. Is anyone ready to hear Monique?
Yeah.
Please.
Where are you, Monique? I'm going to mute everyone again, okay?
Yeah, I'm here.
So,
Can you...
except you, Monique, you just unmute yourself so we can see you.
I thought I had. Okay.
Where are you?
I come from southwest France, from Périgord, in the Occitan-speaking region. This story, they say, comes from the south of Scotland, but they don't all agree. Some say south of Ireland. Anyway, it's about this fisherman who every day climbs into his boat, this boat they call Cora, apparently, and does what he does every day, fishing and then going back home, fishing, going back home. One day, when he's at home, he hears a song. It seems to be coming from the sea. So he climbs into his boat, and immediately the song stops. Same thing another day. The song starts, he climbs into the boat, and the song stops. But one day, he decides he's going to find this song, to find where it comes from. This song is not going to resist to him anymore. So he climbs into his boat and starts rowing. When suddenly he faints. He faints there into his boat. When he awakes, he realizes that he is no more himself. Willie, the fisherman, who has a wife, who has children, who lives over there. No more Willie, but Willa. He has become a woman. So he starts rowing and lands on one of those little pebble beaches, and is so exhausted that he lies down and falls asleep. Suddenly, a young man arrives and awakes her. He finds her pretty, doesn't tell her that he finds her pretty, but invites her home. And there happens, as we say, what must happen. They fall in love. They have children, and here in this little house, you have the children, you have Willa and her young, beautiful husband, and the husband's mother. Everybody is very happy. The children grow, the old woman dies, but the love grows between Willie, who has become Willa, and her young husband. One day, Willa goes to her husband's shed, there where he keeps his boat. And she discovers the Cora, the little boat in which she arrived. And suddenly she remembers that maybe she hasn't always been Willa, that maybe but she doesn't know anymore. So she closes the door and leaves the shed. Another day, as she is walking on the beach, she feels irresistibly attracted to the shed again. She opens the door, and there is the little boat in which she lived. She remembers that maybe, but she closes the door. And then comes the day where she can't resist anymore. She climbs into the boat and goes onto the sea. She starts rowing and rowing and rowing again until she gets to a beach, a little beach on which she lies exhausted and falls asleep. When she wakes up, she realizes that she has become a man. Really? Yes, the fisherman from before. A fisherman who wonders, what am I doing here? And he starts walking back home. He finds his house straight away, but the door is closed. So he starts banging at the door. He bangs. And suddenly he hears, "What the hell are you banging at? What are you hitting me for?" He opens his eyes wide. And he sees his wife, rather angry, here in his bed. He is in his bed. He has been tapping on his wife's shoulder. "What's wrong with you, man?" Oh, he realizes that he is here, that he has found his wife from before. He has found his children. But he remembers that he has been for some time somebody else, that he has been a so-called willer, that he has had a young, handsome husband, that he's had children, but he's back with his wife from before, his children from before, and he's happy. He doesn't want to go back to being willer again. But sometimes he thinks that he's lucky to have been a woman once, to have had children once, to have had a handsome husband once. And when he gets a bit upset against his wife, when he starts making wild gestures, when he starts shouting at her, suddenly he stops. He remembers that he has been willer once. So he remained the rest of his life really remember that he used to be willer, going from Willie to Willa, from Willa to Willie. En krik, ik raak, mon conte Jacoba.
Hey, wonderful.
Gorgeous.
Excellent. Magnifique.
Yes.
Great.
It's hilarious, isn't it, how much it's changed? One of my favorite bits was when thank you very much, Monique. That was
My pleasure.
fantastic to hear it. Thank
Beautiful.
you. One of my favorite bits was when the story was in Wales, and I mean, there were loads of favorite bits, but I suppose I could understand it when it was in well, I understood it when it came out of Wales, and what had gone into Wales as oars of boats, like the oar that you row a boat with, had come out as spades, like that you dig the ground with. So this guy had gone out in his boat, he'd gone into a shed full of junk, and he'd found a broken boat, and he built up the boat, and then he found an oar on the ground, and he used the oar to row to another island. And on the next island, he found, my apologies to all the good storytellers from Wales who told this properly. He got to the other island and he found another shed, and in there on the floor, he found another oar and he rowed off onto the sunset with his new love of his life. But when it came out of Wales, it was that he found a spade that you dig the garden with. And he rowed the boat with his spade. And then in the next shed, he found another spade. So it's lost in translation. I'm not going to keep you any longer except to tell you the last story. But first, I just want to thank a few more people. I want to give my enormous thank you to Sharon O'Grady of the Galway County Council and Creative Ireland. Go, woo! Sharon, woo! Where are you? Because this, I kind of started this with pretty much almost no funding, and it was just really important that people came along and believed in the project. Muireann ní Droinan from Ealaín na Gaeltachta is another person I really want to thank, that because Ealaín na Gaeltachta funded the first Irish language part of the project. So Sharon and Muireann, look what you started. And the other, so the Creative Ireland, Galway County, the Federation of European Storytellers got in there early as well, and the Arts Council of Ireland. It was really important that even though the little tiny, that, you know, the fees for this were so small, they were coming at an important, you know, at a time, and that when work was scarce, and it's been such a special project to be able to realize, crossing all the borders. Now I know you all want to hear the original story, so I can see Shane. Why can I see Shane? Okay, so now I'm going to start with the apology that I'm not a real storyteller, but then, so neither are most of the people who took part of this project. The whole world of professional storytelling was one that was only opened up to me throughout the whole process, and it was a real, like, eye-opener, an amazing thing to be able to meet so many amazing people. So this story was told by Liam of Flaithearta. Liam is he is an 18-year-old friend of my son's. My son spent a year on Inishmore, where the main language is Irish, and he made friends with Liam, who is a descendant of the great, very well-known Irish writer Liam of Flaithearta of the same name. And Sandy was telling us how Liam, when he was growing up, there was a statue to the well-known, the famous Liam of Flaithearta down by near the house where he grew up. And Liam, the younger Liam, grew up thinking that was a statue to him himself. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me telling you. Anyway, he's been here in the house. He's won prizes for his storytelling. He's a really lovely lad, but he's a little bit shy, and he didn't want to come, and he's not used to Zoom, even though we're all getting a bit more used to it. So he didn't want to tell it on Zoom. But I was really thrilled that Liam was able to start off this really special project. So apologies now for my storytelling. Well, I shouldn't say that at all, because we've all been part of this. Once upon a time, there was a warrior called Canon. And Canon, he was sent on a mission out to the wild and unfamiliar territories of the rest of the world. And his mission was to gather a chest full of treasure, of gold and rubies and pearls and silver. And he was to return back with that chest to his king in Ireland. So he went about his duty, and he went away, and he gathered all those treasures into his chest. But he quickly realized, you know, as you will know, that a heavy chest full of treasure, well, who knows, is really, really heavy. So he knew he was going to have to get help to carry that treasure back to Ireland. So he said, I'm going to have to get some people to help me. And he knew that it wouldn't be enough to get really strong people. He needed to have a group of people who were happy and content in themselves, because this was going to be a very, very serious journey. So he went and he gathered up these people who were happy and content in themselves. And they started on their journey from home outwards. And they were singing. They sang their songs every day. And with their songs, their ancestors came with them. And they traveled really well. The first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day, they got up, they ate their breakfast, they went about their duties, they went about their journey. And they were making really good progress. And at this point, they had traveled way beyond their home. They traveled into new territories, new topographies, in around new animals, totally unfamiliar places. And after about 2.5 months, they started to slow down. They got up, they had their breakfast. They weren't going about things so well as they had been doing. They got really sluggish. And this guy, Canan, he was really fed up because he was impatient and he wanted to get his treasure home. And eventually, actually, he was like nagging them, come on, get up, get moving. And eventually he just pulled out his sword on them and he got really angry. He said, get a move on. But this was getting him nowhere because these people had fallen into a deep kind of a trance inside themselves. He was frustrated. So he went to the elder of the group, Agma, and he said, what's the story? Like, these people were doing really well. They were singing. They were, you know, bringing their songs with them. They were making brilliant progress. And it took quite a while for Agma to come back into his own body because he too had fallen into a deep kind of a trance. But it took time for him to come back into a sense of his body, his feet, his hands, of his own self. And he said, well, Canon, we've traveled far and we've traveled fast. And now we need to sit down and wait for our souls to catch up. And that's the story.
Very good. Very good.
Love that idea.
So bravo.
Many of you might know that story. It is a universal story. I know. One guy who took part in this project in Latvia was really fed up when he heard it because he said that's nothing like what I heard. And he kind of totally lost interest after that. And but yeah, rightly or wrongly, I picked that story, and afterwards for quite a while I thought, oh, I've picked the wrong story because it changed so fast. It was gone within about 8 people. But then I can't remember, I think it was Donald in Donegal, after he'd told the story and passed by him, and I hadn't, you know, he'd heard what he heard and it wasn't that version, he sent me that story. And, you know, I only realized then that in that story it talked about them carrying their songs with them, which was, you know, which I'd taken that title from Moya's book and Moya's poem, but and hadn't even made that connection. So then I kind of thought, no, it was the right. And in terms of, you know, the project, it was a, you know, very beautiful story as well. So So that's it. Now you know.
Well done. Well done.
Guys, thanks a million for being here today to hear Maral. Maral, will you give us a wave again there?
Bye.
Yeah, thanks a million again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Monique, where are you again?
Here.
There you are, yeah. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pure delight.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alana. It was great
Thank
fun.
you, Alana.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Alana.
Very much.
And I just see someone put up in their chat there, where's our story? You know, the story has changed so many times.
Not my story.
Exactly. You say, I didn't tell you that. That's not what I said.
Brilliant.
So, listen, I think this is just the beginning. This was the first part of the process, and it won't be the last you'll be hearing from me, because I think this is really, a lot of people ask, what are we going to do with the material? The stories are all up on SoundCloud, most of them. So if you haven't filled in your permission slip to give me permission to record, please do so. And they're up on SoundCloud, and you can listen to whatever one you like, in whatever language you like. And then we don't know, it might be a documentary, it might be a book. Let's see. There were two people I didn't thank, and they were just because you all, I mentioned everyone who brought in a lot of friends. I mean, I know lots of you did bring in other friends. Bridge Barker and Bríd Rugavríd were two people who weren't storytellers in this project. They didn't tell the story, they didn't participate, but they did so much legwork to bring in other people. So I just wanted to say huge thanks to them as well. So we'll be seeing you, we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
And there's a story, there's a drawing coming too, as well. Which
I think you turn us off, I think.
Yeah, I'll turn you off. So, forever. So watch out for I'm just going to put on the gallery view again. Yeah. So, bye.
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 Sláinte, sláinte, scoil.